What's up, everybody? The Fantastic Four First Steps is in theaters tomorrow, and as great as the reviews have been, I'm getting kinda nervous. Let me explain. I want to preface this video by saying I'm obviously going to be seated day one for this movie to judge it based on what we get and nothing else, but there are two things that have popped up in, the last week or so that honestly have me a bit worried about this movie, specifically whether or not Matt Shackman, who I'm a big fan of and who's a massive fan of Marvel's First Family, was allowed to fully cook. The first thing that's been a cause for concern for me is the side villains. Again, even with this, it's like I know we're getting Galactus and he looks insanely good. I can't wait for him. So it shouldn't matter that much, but they cut John Malkovich out of this movie and he was set to portray the Red Ghost. He's a Russian scientist and he's got a team of super apes, which we've seen in the movie. They posted, I believe it was from the first 5 minutes, so I guess the concept didn't fully get cut, but we see Reed using his powers against a super ape and he beats them and they're like talking about it. I think it's when they're on that talk show, but it would have just been so much fun seeing Malkovich in this movie. It's also just a pretty big deal because Shackman got him to be in Marvel and then he had to cut him out of the movie, so it just sucks. But the other one, and this is honestly more concerning to me because of my overall concern about Shackman being allowed to cook, and it's the PWH, Paul Walter Hauser, and his appearance as Mole Man. Again, obviously Galactus is the villain that matters in the movie, but it's just with how comic booky they went with everything from the set designs to the actual costumes himself and Galactus's design, I'm very disappointed with Mole Man's design. The least they could have done is thrown a cape on my man's. I mean, he's just sitting around in a tracksuit. It feels like Matt Reeves is Mole Man. In all seriousness, though, the reason this concerns me is because it kind of feels like Marvel chopping too much once again, just like we saw in February with Captain America 4. We know this movie, Fantastic Four, is their most screened movie ever, which is saying something for Marvel Studios, and I'm worried they were, worrying about the wrong things from test screenings because who knows, maybe one person gives a note and a quarter of the movie is changed, which that could very well lead to my main concern of Shackman's vision being compromised. Which that actually leads into my second reason, and that's this movie's runtime. This is something I almost never care about, and I tell people not to worry about because the proper runtime is what the story calls for, but that's not always true with the MCU. Out of the 7 movies that are sub 2 hours so far in the universe, I'd say I enjoyed 2 of them, and I'm a pretty generous reviewer, so 2 is a low number, and most that I didn't enjoy was because it felt like they salvaged all they could from nothing. Now, thankfully, I don't think that's the case here with Fantastic Four, but I do think, unfortunately, there's a chance that they tested this movie so goddamn much, and as a result, got so much feedback that they diced this movie up until the shell that had formed around it was nothing but an empty shell. Maybe that's because, we've seen so little of Galactus so far, or because of how terrible the other 3 Fantastic Four movies are, and I'm just thinking about those. I just hope this one is a step in the right direction for the team. And so that's going to do it for today's video. Just a quick one for you guys because I feel like I'm going to be wrong. I hope I'm going to be wrong, but let me know where your expectations are at with First Steps down in the comments below and make sure you have a great day.